Hello, everybody. I'm Toby Gennaro, and we've got a decent size looking crowd on this morning, so that's good. Let's do a sound check as we normally do. Make sure the technology is working all right. Make sure you guys can hear my voice loud and clear. You can see the current splash screen. It says live technical analysis, market movers for today. We'll be covering some live markets, looking for some trade setups. If that's all good, you guys can hear and see everything. Just give me an electronic high five over the question box on your screen, and we'll get this thing going. So great, thanks for doing that, you guys. Chip, if you want to get the recording started, we'll do a formal introduction for recording purposes and then launch right into the content from here. Hello, everybody, and welcome. I'm Toby Gennaro, and I'll be your presenter for today. The topic for today is live technical analysis. So I'm just going to be talking through a series of specific trade setups that I'm seeing in real time in the markets and on the charts, and share those with you and kind of show you how we can utilize some of the Nadex contracts to take advantage of those strategy setups. Those of you that are on the live webinar this morning, if you have questions during the session, you can type those into the question box on your screen. I'll be asking you guys some questions as well, so we'll try to keep it interactive, which I think always makes it more interesting. So let's put up the risk warning and disclaimer. We got to do this as part of the business. I'll just leave this up for about 30 seconds or so. If you folks could just have a quick read through, that would be good. In brief, what we're saying here is we provide education only, which means we do not give any financial advice. As most of you know, trading the markets can be risky. It's not suitable for everyone, and you should seek independent professional advice. All right, everybody good on the disclaimer? Let me just put up one more disclaimer here from Nadex. If you can have a quick read through this one, it's a short one, and that'll wrap up the disclaimers for this morning, and we'll move on to the agenda from here. All right, very good. Let's get going here. So to kickstart your trading each and every Tuesday morning with this regular feature from the trading team at Trade with Precision, there's so much going on in the markets each and every week, as you can imagine. The big question is, how can we spot opportunities across multiple markets and multiple time frames? That's really what we're trying to accomplish. So you can join us weekly for this insightful live webinar where we'll focus on technical and trend analysis across a number of major markets to help find an answer to this question. Let's go ahead, jump into some of the live charts, see what kind of trading opportunities we can find for today, and try to make the most of it. So what I did before getting logged in today for this session, I took a look at a few charts that I thought would be good to consider for some potential trading opportunities. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of these. I've got the S&P 500, and then the Euro USD, and then I also want to take a look at the Aussie dollar if we've got time. And I want to show you a couple different things to look at when you're looking through your charts and when you're applying these trade strategies. So give me a moment here just to get my screens organized and kind of get everything set up for you. We'll go right into the Nadex platform. I've changed things up a little bit recently. I want to use the Nadex screens as much as I can, get you guys familiar with how to use these. And Nadex has done a great job funneling some R&D into putting these together. So those look pretty good. Let's take a look at the S&P. It's been running on me pretty quick in the last half an hour. So what I've done is I've got a series of my moving averages set up: the 10, the 20, the 50. They're all color coded. So the 10, the 20, and then the 50s somewhere down around here. But basically everything is moving up. We can see the higher highs and higher lows. This is a 4-hour chart. If we look at the daily chart, we don't have the data, but we can still see over the last week or two that the trend is up. The 2-hour time frame, we can shrink this down quite a bit, get a look at a lot of candles, and we can see that we've got the 50, the 20, and the 10 all lined up, higher highs, higher lows, really just a nice uptrending chart. We have nice small candles throughout this trend. We've got these pullbacks into the moving average zone, and then once it takes off from there, it just continues up. So I was looking for a little pullback here on a smaller time frame, and I think it kind of ran up on me here in the last half an hour or so. But let's go down some of the time frames and take a look. what I do is I typically use the higher time frames like the 4-hour and the 2-hour. Gives me a nice idea of the fact that we're actually in an uptrend. So when I go down to the 1-hour time frames, I can kind of squeeze things down and start to look for a good setup. So we got this pullback, and this is what I was looking at right here. We got a pullback back into the zone. This candle was actually pretty small when I looked at it. And usually when you get right back into the buy zone, like we've seen so many times before, along this trend right here, people jump in, they see this setup, and they start buying. And that's exactly what happened here. So we're a little bit obviously late on this particular cycle, but this goes all the way down to the 30-minute chart. You can see where we got this nice setup right here. It was kind of where I was looking at it before it exploded. The 15-minute looks good just as well, but we had some of the crossovers mixed up. The 10 and the 20 were reversed, and so really the lowest time frame we could have found this trade setup on was really the 30-minute, where we had this nice candle close out right there, and then as soon as we broke the high, we took off and then set up a new high. So now we've got a lot of extension from the moving averages. Not the time to chase this move. We've missed it, but that's really the setup, that we're looking for, and how we identify these in real time. So we're not looking for these, in hindsight. So on this pullback, I'm waiting. I've got which looks to be, a green candle, but it's a rejection candle in the opposite way. It's a complete sell-off. I don't want those candles. I want ones that start out and open the candle down here and close all the way up here, which creates this nice green bullish candle. And then I wait for the closeout, and that's really the bullish signal I'm looking for. And then I'm really looking for the next candle to start forming as I get my trade set up and then start moving. But so that one's done. There's really nothing to look at there. Let's take a look at a couple other markets that we can take a look at. I want to take a look at the Aussie dollar real quick, show you guys a couple of things on this one. Let me get this spread out a little bit so we can see. Here's the 4-hour time frame, and we got a nice move right here. As we go to the daily chart, I want to get an anchor for myself. The daily chart has really been sideways for quite a while between this upper, level of around, say, 74 to this lower level of around 70, all the way down to like maybe 69. So we've got basically a swing high here, but we have a lower low here. We have a lower high here, another lower low here, and a lower high right here, potentially with some bearish candles setting up for another move lower. So as we go through the charts, we can look at the 4-hour chart, and the 4-hour chart looks great for an uptrend, but on the higher time frame, the daily chart, it looks like it's actually ready for a reversal and another move to the downside. So even though we have some bullish candles right here, I don't know that I'm going to be too interested in trading this market long, because my anchor chart on the daily chart, was telling me something different. So looking at the 2-hour time frame, here once again we have the 50, the 20, the 10 all in alignment. It looks like we might have a little consolidation here to move higher once again. I want to be patient on those types of situations. Here we've got a little bit of a mix-up, kind of a sideways market on the 1-hour time frame, and then going down to the 30-minute chart. Again, we have a lot of consolidation straight across. Not really sure if this is going to move higher or if it's going to be obedient to the 1-day chart, which is really essentially looking to reverse in a downtrend out of that sell zone. So as we move down through some of these other time frames, we'll take a look at the 15. Again, wouldn't really expect anything different. Everything is really just sideways, and then probably the same from here. Everything's sideways going all the way down to the 2-minute chart. So you can learn a lot. I wanted to show you guys this one because it's not a good trade setup, but I wanted you to understand looking through multiple time frames, starting out with the daily and understanding the higher time frame trend. We've got a lower high and a lower low setup, and then we have a rally back up into that sell zone, and then we have some bearish candles setting up. So as you can imagine, when the markets are moving up for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 essentially almost 9 days, you're going to get a lot of the lower time frames, the 4 hour, the 2 hour, the 1 hour, in potentially an uptrend. And it's going to look like there are pullbacks on these time frames that look like you want to go higher. But as you look on the higher time frame, you can see that, that rally is more than likely almost over. And if the market's going to do anything, there are going to be sellers that come in right here that are more than likely going to take this market down to retest this low at 70, or potentially put in another low, retesting this level down here around 69. So if you're having difficulty understanding, the setups on some of these and you're getting confused on a trend, this is really a good lesson in trend structure and how to understand when a trend is, ready to reverse. So here we have, a lot of higher highs, higher lows. We've got everything fanning out. We've got, everything back in the buy zone, but it doesn't look good on the next higher time frame, which is the daily. And so it could be very easy. We could get a small run, maybe up to a retest of this level, and then things could potentially roll over, and potentially is another move lower. So you really want to understand, if we were, extended way away from the moving averages on the daily chart in a downtrend, then, there might be a snap back into the moving average, which would produce, maybe some setups on those smaller time frames that would say, hey, we can, trade that back up into the sell zone. I never recommend that because you're trading against the overall downward trend. So what we want to do is, when we're overextended, that's when we want to be taking our profit from a short trade, going with the trend, and just allow that natural snapback to occur into the sell zone. And then we want to wait for those bearish candles set up again, and then we want to trade going short in the direction of this trend. Or at least here we have kind of a range between, say 74 and 70, or even 69. And so it looks like we're going to be meandering kind of in throughout this range between the high and the low until we get some kind of a setup, either a flat level breakout to the downside or a flat level breakout to the top side. But for right now, it's looking like there's a channel here that's developed, and more than likely this is going to be a rollover going into a lower scenario. But we don't really have anything on a lower time frame. If we had maybe an 8-hour time frame, we could potentially see something, but we're not getting anything on the 4-hour that we can actually trade. So this is really, again, a no trade for us. If we can't get 2 time frames side by side in agreement, then it's really not a trade strategy setup for us. So let's go ahead and take a look at one more. We had a couple of no trade scenarios. Maybe we can find one that is a definite trade, but I think you guys will find that even the no trade scenarios, you can still learn a lot from potential mistakes that you may make in reading the price action, and really understanding how to identify good trends from bad trends. I think that's really the overall lesson here for this morning. But looking at the euro dollar here and changing things up a bit on foreign currency, this is the 4-hour chart. Let's go one higher and take a look at the daily, see how many candles we have. So we have a good list of candles here. As you can see, this is a lot of ranging price action right here. We do have an ultimate higher high up around this, 115, 116 level. And then we put in a lower high, and then a lower low, and then a lower high, and then a lower low. So from this point right here, we do have a nice downward trend. We've got a rally right back up into the sell zone. As you can see, it's been working back here. We had a couple of rejection candles that got a nice sell-off down to a lower low. We're getting a nice small indecisive candle here around the sell zone. If that closes out like that and we get a break of the low of that candle, that would be a very low-risk opportunity to engage in another move, potentially to the downside, keeping in mind that there's been quite a bit of support down around this level. So I don't know that I'd be looking to take this lower than the 112 level, but even with such a small risk right here, that could be a pretty big move, going from that 113 level down to 112 with with some some binaries. So let's take a look. We're right there at that level. 113.4 is the level that we're looking at, and on the ladder here we've got one here, a short at potentially 55. That could work. We have another one up here right around 61. That could work. And the real idea here is to keep these, keep them close to the price action, right? The strike prices that we're looking at. And this is really something that we want to look at. Here's how you can look at more of these just by taking your mouse, putting it on these, and you can expand the ladder, the binary ladder of where everything's at, and you can get exposure to to more of these, and then you can kind of scroll up and see some of the different opportunities for binaries that we're looking at. And so again, we have this 61, it's 60, say 62, we'd have a risk of about 38 on this one. So basically almost a 2-to-1 reward to risk. That's good, and the market can actually hang around this 1340 level, and it would really only have to be below 1340. So a small move from where we're at here could essentially net us a quick 1-to-1 reward to risk, or even potentially if we held on it to expiration, a 2-to-1 reward to risk, which would be pretty good. And then looking at another one here, we can move these up, and we'll have another one. Let's see. This one's a little farther out, so it's down around 1320. It's going to take a much larger move from here all the way down to this level to actually get some movement on the actual contracts. That one presents a little bit more risk to us, but you might be able to take a couple of contracts here and then maybe take one contract a little farther out. If you do lose on this contract, then you could potentially make it up on this one. But we still need to make sure that we get a closeout of an indecisive candle, as this candle is currently in movement, and so that means it's a daily candle. So that is, a much longer time frame. As we go down to the 4-hour, again, we're looking. If you can see the difference between what I was talking about. We have essentially no divergence here. We have lower high, lower low, lower high. It's really a crapshoot as to whether this is going to move all the way back up and test the higher range, or if it's going to continue down into another lower low and retest potentially this level right here. This candle is really going to be the tell-all for us. As you can see, when we go down to the lower time frames, we have all of these candles are in an uptrend for the last almost 2 weeks. That means before I even click on the 4-hour chart, we know that's going to be an uptrending chart, the opposite of what the daily chart's giving us. So we really need to be careful if there's any bearish divergence here. Like right here, we did a second test of that level. We peaked just up through that with a higher high. And we can see here that up until then, we had a lot of strength in this trend with higher highs on both the RSI and the MACD, and then as soon as we put in this higher high right here, just a slight higher high, we actually get a lower high, which means there's some slight bearish divergence on the 4-hour chart already. As we go down to the 2-hour, we can see what that looks like. We have that same higher high right here, and again, we have some more slight bearish divergence. We could break through that with, obviously a bullish candle here and break up to a new high and potentially put in some more bearish divergence. That's always a possibility. But let's take a look at the 1-hour chart and see if we get anything else here. Again, we have that breakthrough on the higher high, a double topping structure. We've got a rejection candle off of that level, a couple of rejection candles, another bullish candle setting up right here. As you can see, we have a lot of indecision at this retest as to whether we're going to push higher in this trend or whether we're about ready to break down and break through potentially this swing low. Because right now we have quite a bit of bearish divergence, as you can see right here. that's a much lower, significantly a lower low than this higher high is right here. And as you can even see from here, this higher high to this higher high, we even have a lower high right there, and then we have just another slight higher high right here, and then we have another lower high. So really, the trend right here is down, and we have several legs of divergence on this chart. That doesn't look good on the 1 hour time frame. And as we're looking for some lower time frames, the 30-minute, we've got the same thing except just on the last two levels right here, right? A higher high right here, and then we have another lower high. So we're really getting a lot of widespread bearish divergence across a lot of these time frames. This here looks like a flat level looking to press higher, big rejection candle off of there. That doesn't look good. As you can see on some of these, it looks to be straight across, but we have some slight divergence, couple of divergence legs right there, getting back up and making almost an equal touch. Have really another divergence leg right there, but we don't really have a higher high. If there was a peak up here above that higher high, then I could actually say that would be divergence. But right now, it looks like we're going to be going sideways here for a while unless we get a move back up to this level and a consolidation here with some small candles and some pressure on that level looking to press upward. I would not be looking to trade this market long. I'd be looking for some type of a sell-off and a pullback to then look for this market to kind of regroup and then look for another surge higher, if in fact that's going to be the case. As we move down to the 5-minute charts, a lot of sideways action here, just a lot of ranging motion. So really not a whole lot to look at. So I think the lesson for today, as I look through these charts, is really about how to spot good trends versus bad trends. And today we're seeing a lot of false trending action and really helping you guys to understand how to identify those. So even though this looks like a great trend to trade right here, a possible flat level breakout, we really need to pay attention to what's going on in the indicators, the MACD and the RSI. So we want to pay attention to that bearish divergence, and then more importantly, allowing the higher time frames to guide us. Even though we have a trend here that's been building over the last several weeks into a downtrend with lower highs, lower lows, really gives me the wherewithal to say, you know what, I need to really pay attention to the sell zone right here where we've had the rally, and that rally has failed multiple times. More than likely, that rally is going to fail again. And so I'd be looking for something, if anything, to the downside on a daily chart setup and an 8-hour chart setup. Because as you can see, the 4-hour is not really going to give us a roll down. It's not going to give us the fanning out of the moving averages that we need. So it's really going to be something in between the daily and the 4-hour, which unfortunately the charts aren't going to give us that 8-hour time frame. But that would be something I'd recommend to Nadex, would be to include an 8-hour time frame. That could be really key in helping with some of the the swing trades, looking at maybe a weekly contract and looking for potentially 3 or 4 or 5 days of candles potentially selling off at this point, provided we get that candle right here. And that would kind of be the one that I'd be looking out for the next couple of days to see if we actually get a closeout today of that bullish candle. Tomorrow, look for the next candle. If it breaks the low of that candle, then more than likely you'll at least get probably a 50% retracement of this level, perhaps maybe something of a retest down to 112. There's no guarantees, obviously, but it's been happening here, so the probabilities dictate that if we do get a bullish candle in and around the sell zone, then the probabilities dictate that more than likely there would be a reasonably good chance of some type of a move and a sell-off going lower. If this turns out to be a bullish candle at the end of today, then we have to wait again until tomorrow to see if we're going to get some type of a rejection candle. And more than likely, we want to see something like this We want to see something like that, a small candle, something like this, that gives us an inclination that here it was basically 3 bearish candles, an indecisive, bearish, and bearish. And then once we got a breakdown of the low of those 3, 4 candles, that's when things really took off. So we could be looking at the same thing here. We just don't know at this point. But this is kind of the opportune time to start stocking that trade. So we're running out of time here. We've got a couple of minutes left. Let me take a couple of questions here. Can you look at commodity silver? I wish we could. We looked at 3 trades. I think that's about all the time that we have for today. Thomas, I apologize for that. Kathy's got a question. Isn't the blue a long trade? So I'm not sure. I've gone through quite a few trades before I looked at the questions here. If you want to reformulate that, Kathy, maybe I can get an answer for you. If I'm on the wrong chart, maybe you were asking about one of the other charts that I looked at. But in looking at these, I think I did a pretty good job at understanding and making some sense of a lot of these charts doing the opposite things. And when they do the opposite things, that means that there's not a good trade setup in the charts. If there's a lot of indecision, charts going in different directions, that's a real telltale that you're not finding a good trend over multiple time frames. And that was really the lesson for today, is utilizing the higher time frame as your anchor chart, because as you go down through the lower time frames, you can start to find trade setups that more than likely may be false setups. And that was really kind of the lesson for today. Yeah, so 60, yeah, I'm sorry, the $62, that was the that was actually the buy price, not the sell price. 58 was where we'd actually be selling at. So you're correct on that. So I was utilizing the I was utilizing the different the wrong one. So you'd actually, if you're selling, you're actually going to be shorting at the bid price, correct, not the ask price. So good catch there. Sometimes when I get going on these, I'm talking through a lot of these contracts. But like here, you'd be shorting at a level of 62, which would be giving you basically the 38. I have to go back and look at the recording to see exactly what I said there. Yeah, great catch there, Kathy. Thanks for pointing that out. So that's kind of the thing. Let me pull up our charts again. I have one more thing to go through on the wrap up for today. And so we'll just, let me see if I can get my charts set up on my end. Just give me 1 minute. Sometimes I have to resize a number of things. Okay, so here we go. You should be able to see the just the wrap-up slide here. What Nadex is doing with these Tuesday morning sessions, they're really making an investment in your success as an investor. That's why they sponsor events like these today. A couple different ways for you guys to get in touch with us. Phone and email us to hear for any questions that you might have. Or you can ask me some of your questions right now as you've been doing. Just use the question box on your screen if there's anything that remains in your mind that you need to ask. Demo accounts are available to provide you some familiarity with the contracts that we've been talking about today. For current members, if you'd like to begin trading again, just log in to nadex.com. You can take advantage of the advanced education webinars. I believe they're also on the YouTube website. If you check that out, that'll help take your trading to the next level by giving you a little advanced training on some of the price action, trending, and strategy setups that we're looking at today. If you are new to Nadex and would like to set up an account, again, go to nadex.com, click on the orange box in the top right. It says sign up. Go ahead, fill in your details there, and then someone from Nadex will respond via email to get you started and get you set up. Before you do sign off, there's a short survey upon your exit. Please let us know your thoughts and let us know how we did. Let me take a look at the question box on my end here and see if there's anything left that I need to respond to. Great, guys. Thanks for the compliments. I'm glad you learned something. I'm glad that was helpful. Sometimes I find it is helpful to look at trade setups that are fake trade setups, because that really gives you a good idea as an example of how not to get caught up in some lower time frame trending charts when the higher time frames are doing the opposite. So I think that was a great lesson for today, and we found a couple of them just like that. So thanks for the compliments, guys. Have a great rest of the week trading, and we'll look forward to talking to you next time. Take care.